Hello, everyone, and welcome back, or welcome for the first time today. Who's here for the first time today? Any newcomers? One! Have you all been just staying here for all the talks? Yeah, pretty much? Good for you, nice. So you've seen me a lot today, then I'm sorry. Okay, welcome everyone. If you're coming in, just find a good seat. Today, it's time for me to introduce our next speakers. Both of them have around 20 years in the game developer industry, and they know all about all of the struggles that you're all facing on a daily basis. And today, they're here to talk to you about how they turn those struggles into B2B companies aimed to make your life easier. Dino Patti is co-founder of the studio Playdead, famous for titles Limbo and Inside. Now he's the CEO and co-founder of Coherence, a multiplayer solution for AAA titles as well as indie game studios. Alexander Bergendahl has, in his own words, founded 3 companies, built 4 companies, and sold 1 company. Currently, he's serving as CEO as well as co-founder of Loot Locker, a game publishing platform here to help further direct-to-player relationships for developers and publishers. But enough talking about them, let's have them up on stage. Dino Patti and Alexander Bergendahl.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hello. Hopefully the food coma has not set in too hard. So Dino and I, we've known each other for a little bit, but I've been a big fan of Dino's, obviously ever since playing Limbo and then Inside, and followed his career, and then found ourselves in a similar position where both of us are running B2B game tech companies, or SaaS companies, as they say in the VC world. And have both run game studios before, and we both ended up here in the same with the same journey where we've hit a wall, had struggled with technology when we're trying to build our own games, and then ended up sort of pivoting our career towards building technology. And we've spent a lot of time talking about this at GDC and other events, and thought, why not talk about this on stage, share your journey, share my journey, and see what the differences are, and how we sort of overcome the differences between a game studio and building and shipping games, and then doing that with game tech and working with different customer base. So maybe we can start, Dino, you could give it a little background about yourself and how you ended up founding Coherence.
Yeah, of course. So I started in the game industry in 2002 to 3, I cannot actually remember. And I worked on some titles in a Danish game company that not many people know about, and I'm also not so proud about them, but it is my origin story. It was some Mafia RTS games, and that was kind of where I kind of started as... I was supposed to be programming on them, but I started doing game design instead, and I kind of realized it's kind of fun to do this. I came in as a coder, that's my background, and I felt that games have all of the challenges that a coder would like to kind of dig into. There's everything, but I kind of, I just fell in love with kind of creating experiences. But I worked and I crunched for 3 years, and it was super tough. And the games didn't sell so well. It was in the old days where you had to put things on CDs and ship them out in the world. So the mathematics were like, if a game cost $50 in the store, like the developer would get $5. So it's different to what you see from today, right? So it was like a lot of crunching and not a lot of gain. So actually after that, I stopped and I said, okay, I hate the game industry. I think it's bullshit. I'll never come back to that because you work too much and it's just you get nothing out of it. But then I met like Arndt, the partner I did played it with. He made like some drawings and a video from what became Limbo, but he was also as talented as he is. He was also as useless. So I kind of, it was a perfect match for us to kind of go together and create this company. So we just started, me and him, and at that point I knew absolutely nothing. I had like 200% self-confidence that I could do anything, and that was what we were running this on. So I would say this experience building Playdead for 10 years was kind of the big driver's license in kind of do everything from the first. You build a game while building a company, you hire people, you make mistakes, you forget to pay tax, and they come and visit you and say you cannot forget to.
Nope.
It's apparently important, It was a situation where I had to pay employees a tax, and I thought I would rather pay the employees. So yeah, so that was that. After 10 years, me and my partner had a fallout, which is also half public. Something that's also led up to that was also my thought about it going too slow, because Limbo, from when we really started anything on that, took 4.5 years. Inside took 6 years. So I was also starting to think, is this going a bit too slow for my temperament? And my partner at that point thought about a game that was even bigger and took even longer time. So I was also like, maybe this is also a good time for me to do something else. After that, I met my next partner, and he was called Chris, and he had another idea, and I said to him, hey, I just built a company, and I can do it again with you. Do you want to do it? And he said yes, and he was also a huge talent. He did a bit more things than my first partner, but it was also a really cool partnership. And while we were building that company, and mind you, before this I thought it went too slow. I thought maybe I can also build another company while having this one.
And this is Jumpship you're talking about with Chris?
Yeah, Jumpship with Chris. And then I thought, yeah. And then I started Coherence on the same time. And that was a bit stupid, but that was what I did. And we'll get more into all of that a bit later. So yeah, that's how I started these 3 companies.
A lot of overlap with me. I didn't have an engineering background. I was probably more useless, like your partners. But I had a lot of drive and wanted to build games. I started in QA, and after working my way up there, I always found that the people running the companies that I worked at, I didn't believe in them, and had a lot of, like you said, self-confidence that I could just start my own studio. So I founded my first studio in 2012, and we built a free-to-play open-world skiing and snowboarding game, which is 4 things you don't want to combine in a first-time game as 3 people, 1 artist, 1 engineer, and myself. But we built a game that had millions of players. We were very early on the early access wave when we were able to get there just while green light was still necessary. So we skipped green light, got on early access when there was maybe a dozen games, and was able to capitalize on improved discoverability compared to now. And then ran that for 5-6 years. Ended up having to bankrupt that company with a failed acquisition, and then joined a mobile game developer called Hat Rabbit that was founded by a few ex-DICE early employees, and we drove that to an acquisition from King a year later, and then kind of like you said, started 2 companies at the same time. I started Loot Locker, and then I also co-founded Aurora Punks, which is a codev studio. And you talked about this self-confidence, and we both have founded multiple companies. Why do you end up founding companies? Like, why don't you just get a job?
But that's a really good idea. I mean, I don't know. I mean, my self-confidence has brought me many places, good and bad, I think. But in this sense, I mean, we just for Limbo, we just wanted to get that game out, and we just didn't know what it took. And we put our own time in first. We put our own money in. And I tried to figure out how do we get more money. What does everybody else do? And this is 2005, 2006. This was not it was not cool to have make a game studio at this point. I mean, nobody in Denmark was investing in games. So I felt also we were learning, and while the whole industry in Denmark was learning. So I think it could only be run on self-confidence and believing that we would be something at one point.
And was it like an entrepreneur in your family that inspired you to go out and start your own company?
So I always think no, but I mean, my dad, he had made some restaurants, he makes pizzas. So he has always been...
Tell me you're Italian without telling me you're Italian.
Yeah, exactly. And I would also say that, my dad, without making this like a psychology session, he has like impeccable self-confidence. He speaks all languages in the world. He does not, but he thinks he does. And he starts companies, he starts restaurants. He gets a job where nobody can get a job, and it's like, and yeah, he got a job in Denmark, not talking Danish and so on when he started out. So I don't know, I maybe have something from that, but I never attributed to that. I just think it's my naivety about doing stuff, because I feel I can do everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was very fortunate. My oldest brother, he co-founded a internet startup back in the 90s. And that, I think, for me and my siblings, were 6. We all sort of saw this rise. I mean, he was in college, he was 21, 22, he took his company public, he was, standing in front of the NASDAQ screen, having made, hundreds of millions of dollars, and we're all sort of much younger than him. We're like, whoa, you can do this? Like, it's a possibility. And it's interesting, you can still sort of end up with that same thing, and maybe it is just both of us are naive and don't really realize what we're embarking on. But you do realize what you embark on, because you do it once, and then, they say what is insanity is doing the same thing twice, expecting a different outcome, and then you do it again and again.
But I want the same outcome, I think. But I think as founder, you have to have some naivety about the future. You have to believe that in 10 years, I think at least that's what I'm thinking. When I'm sitting down and thinking about a vision or something, I always sit down and get the feeling of how does this look, how does this feel in 10 years' time? And I think that's what drives me. And you go through a lot of shit and hardships and a lot of stuff, but you still have this vision about, if this works out, it's going to feel like amazing here. And I think and you're naive because there's a lot of ways it can go bad. I sadly or luckily didn't try to go bankrupt with a company, but I think it's a good learning. You cannot have that in mind, that you start something and there's a possibility and that's something that's bad. You have to go through that and do it again and again. The only way you can fail, I think, as a founder is to stop after a failure.
Yep. And then with Playdead, you found success. I mean, Limbo and Inside were both very successful. With Jumpship, you sold the company. Are you expecting the same, like with Coherence? Have you, now that you've done it twice, do you expect the third time to be as easy? Not to say that those first 2 times were easy, but
Yeah, it was never easy. I mean, I think Limbo was really, really a tough one to get out. That's where you build the company while building a studio, and then Inside was less building a studio. I mean, I don't expect it to be easy, but I expect I can do it again and again, I guess, until I can't. But I will continue like an insane person.
Yeah. All right, so we founded some studios. We've seen some success for you, some not success for me. What is as the title says, the ultimate side quest? Where does this side quest of founding a Coherence and building technology instead of games start?
Yeah, so my heart is definitely in making games. And I felt when I was running Jumpship that I wanted to have more challenges, and those challenges, I wanted those to be in multiplayer. And those were the thoughts that led me into thinking about a multiplayer technology. So in many ways, Coherence was this big side quest that I sometimes see as when I played Skyrim. And I don't know how long the main quest is in Skyrim, but I ended up playing 80 hours of side quest until I realized, shit, I need to get back to something. There was some dragons also. Somebody asked me about dragons. And it's the same now. I mean, I think I created Coherence because I wanted something that made it easy to make multiplayer games. Because I wanted to explore how do we make more emotional games within the multiplayer space. I feel a lot of the things out there has not, like, there's a few really great examples of really emotional multiplayer games like Journey, but that's not the general direction. So it was just a side quest that got like
Out of control.
Out of control, yeah. What about you?
I mean, we built a lot of the core technology of Loot Locker inside my first company, where we're building this free-to-play game. You know, there was no back end as a service back then, so we had to build a lot of this technology ourselves. We saw the value that this gave us. You know, we were a team of 8 people. We were able to support millions of players. We had live ops. We had, you know, the X Games participating, where we'd launched the X Games course the same day, in the same moment the actual competition started, on PC and console. And the value that brought us, and the ability to do that as a small team, for me, it was like, all right, well, this is something that other people need. Very much like you felt like this will make other people's lives easier. So for me, it was sort of a natural step to say, okay, let's take this technology and put it into its own business. And then when the main business died, I had a very clear track to, like, all right, let's see where this can go. And, you know, having at Hat Rabbit, we used some other backends as a service like PlayFab, and having then experienced that, I was like, well, we actually built something better. So that really gave me a little bit more affirmation that we should chase after this journey. And, you know, I'd already been building all this together with, you know, back then I was just my in-house engineer, but I then, you know, co-founded Loot Locker with him. But it was very clear that I was going to be the CEO. How did it work for you? You know, you were running Jumpship, and then you started Coherence. Who's supposed to be the CEO of both companies?
Yeah, so Jumpship I built up, and I live in Denmark, and I built it up in the UK. And at the time where I built it up, I thought it was very exotic to have a company in the UK. I don't know why. You know, it's like, oh, it could be fun. You know, I can travel all the time. But again, traveling all the time also becomes a bit of a chore when you have to travel all the time. And I think I was there maybe 2 or 3 times a month for a couple of days, until we hit around 15 people. And at that point, I just felt that I lost touch with how to run it, you know, because I had a lot of online meetings, and after the online meeting was done, you know, everybody was in one office, and I was in Denmark sometimes. And the next day, you know, we came to some conclusion. Next day they came, hey, we went to went out to have something to eat, and we came up with a solution instead. And I slowly felt that I was kind of keeping the team back instead of like propelling them forward. So I kind of just started hiring people. You know, there's this pyramid. I just started to hire myself invaluable, with the idea of taking myself out of it. And then, as I said, like, as I did that, I kind of also felt, you know, I had more time. Again, it was a bit stupid, but and I met David Helgerson, the creator of Unity, and I pitched this idea to him, and we kind of started up together. Like, how do we democratize multiplayer? Like, Unity democratized game development. How do we take multiplayer and make it super, super easy so one person could make an MMO? And we were both like, we both earned a lot of money of previous ventures. So we have the money, we know all the investors, we know all the CEOs. And if we combine this, we can start the company without doing anything, just by the imagination of our thoughts. And of course it didn't went like that, because I was out pitching to investors and pitching to CEOs, you know, and some of the CEOs was like, you know, you tell me exactly what I need to do, why you're not doing it? And I said, yeah, but no, I have another company and I don't have time, and you're supposed to be the CEO. And the investors said, yeah, you know, it sounds really great, you know, but I said, yeah, but I'm not the CEO, I'm just pitching you. And like, what? I'll find a CEO for you. And they said, okay. And we actually had 2 offers, and they're like, okay, we give you the money if you're the CEO. And then I had to reevaluate everything. And I also kind of, in pitching the whole job and what we were doing, and why this is awesome, and why this is awesome in 10 years, I also got like, okay, actually, I kind of have to see this through to the end. So I kind of just also pitched myself into kind of doing the role. And then I don't know, again, what do you do as a CEO? I don't know, we are kind of the most useless person in the company, but also the glue of all of the talent around us. So I don't know, like...
Bang the drum. Do you think that is maybe a trust issue, that you can't find a CEO that you trust to run raise your baby?
That's a very deep question.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
I'm looking for CEOs that can take over my job every day. And maybe it's a trust issue, maybe I'm not good at finding the right person. It is really, really hard to find a person that has the fit, that is the right person. They are in the right time of their life where they have enough experience that they want to take the job, but not too much that they want to do their own. Because maybe, they're also too entrepreneurial, so they want to do their own. So they have to be like this. Is entrepreneurial, they have to be the right timing with them doing something else. If they earn too much money, they get too lazy. There's just all of these things that have to match. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I have the same question every day. Regarding sort of trusting people. Like, can I trust people to have the same passion as I do? This is. I birthed this baby, and I've got all these people around me to help teach it things. The analogy is maybe falling apart now, but can there be another co-parent that I can trust 100% of the time? And I think that's where I struggle the most.
You have trust issues.
I don't think I can fully trust anybody to believe and to give it as much blood, sweat, and tears as I can. But maybe that's also why you have founders that take the company to a certain stage, because you need that constant desire and to control everything.
Yeah, I'm constantly looking for mentors in this. Like, who's doing this that can help you think the right way? And maybe this is a bad example, but I always think about Richard Branson, right? He has 200 companies. He started with 1 or 2 or 3, And at one point, he built people around him he trusted, and they helped him build. And then, and it's not that I want to get to that point having 200 companies, but I really want to get to a point where I'm less stressed and can do the same and have a lot of great people around me. I love that. For me, my job is 100% enabling really talented people, because all of them are more talented than me in some vertical. But I just feel like a lot of them has needed somebody to enable them.
Yeah.
Either with paying the salary, or giving them money, or giving them the space, or giving them the responsibility.
Okay, so now we've created these companies that are now building game technology, not games. We've gone from selling individual units to players, to now having to deal with SaaS pricing, usage rates, and selling to developers for the first time. What was sort of the biggest shock that you found when you had to actually start dealing with the business side of Coherence once you'd built enough to show to developers and try to get them as customers?
But I feel all of it. I had, again, this naive going into it. I thought it was going to be the same. So the way you build a game, right, that you build for a lot of years and then you release. So you build something amazing that people want, and you release it with great marketing around that, and then people just come. And I had the same idea at SaaS. I thought I built a perfect product that's so great that the customer will just come. And it doesn't work in that like SaaS. Because what we have built is really great. But there's just a lot of questions, And I also know, because sometimes I talk about developers in third person, but I am a game developer still. I know why they're not choosing us initially. I know, there's a trust thing, right? They're always asking, who else is using this? And obviously, that's the same question I would ask anybody. Who else is using this? I have to, if I'm a game developer, I have to spend the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years making a game. I'm spending all of my time. I'm spending a lot of resources. I don't want to base my stuff on something I cannot trust. So it shouldn't, but it surprised me how much it's important for us to build trust while I was building a product.
Yeah, no, trust, I think, is probably the hardest thing not the hardest thing to build, but as long as it takes to build a product, it takes to build the trust. Because it's consistency, it's being there for your customers, and especially the early customers. You bring them on, and they are taking a huge risk in embedding your technology into their game, and they're relying on you to keep delivering your promises, and then you are hoping that they can launch their game as well. which is the other side of this. Like, you have gotten some customers, but now you need them to go out and demonstrate the game and succeed, and you don't have control over that.
Yeah. About trust, can I just say that trust, you can sit in any meeting or you can talk with any person in also other relationships than, with like a developer, like also like a regular partner. And you can say anything in the world and it doesn't build trust. Trust comes from trustworthy actions times time. And that's the only thing. So you can only, you cannot gain trust by talking. You can be lucky that they kind of trust you for a bit, but the only way to go do it is like doing trustworthy actions again and again and again. And that's where business like ours just takes time. You cannot just build them up in a year and go out and say, hey, take my product, because it's not enough time for the whole industry to see you being there, consistently doing great stuff, people talking great about you, releasing games and all of that.
Yeah, and one entity that does not like things taking time are the investors.
Yeah.
So when you've created a name for yourself, but building your games, when you then went to VCs and you turn up all black and you start pitching them game technology, do they care who you are?
Yeah, that was a big problem, not problem for me, but I went out and raised money and thought that I could build on some kind of reputation, but I kind of find out that all of the investors that would like to invest in SaaS businesses don't necessarily know the game industry that well. And most of them didn't know. Some knew, but most of them didn't know what I'd done before. I didn't care. And in some ways it was really hard, and I was also a bit annoyed about it, but in some ways it was also a blessing, because I kind of had to go back to one-on-one on how to pitch. I can just not sit there and say, hey, I did this before or whatever. Nobody cares in SaaS that you made a game that sold copies before. Like, they care if you made a SaaS business before that sold copies, right? So it was a blessing in that sense. I had to actually go back and learn again, but it was also super hard. I pitched hundreds of investors, and getting no, and improving and iterating on pitches.
Yeah, I think for our first round, I think I pitched 163 investors, both angels and VCs. And they say, the VCs often say, oh, we really like investing in second time or third time founders because they've learned those lessons. And so you kind of go into this thinking, all right, this will be easier now. And you're more confident, you're more prepared for their questions.
Can I just say, in comparison, and this is very, very anecdotal, but in Playdead, for the first round, we pitched to one person and he put in the money. Then second time, I think, in the second round, we pitched to 2 or 3 and we got the third one. Then in Jumpship, we went to one GDC and we just pitched at that GDC and we found NetEase and we got investment for NetEase. So knowing what question you're going to ask later, it's anecdotally for me been much, much easier. Again, it's another time and so on. You cannot maybe take from now. It's been much easier to pitch games than pitching a SaaS product. Maybe I'm better at pitching games. I don't know. Maybe there's other things also, but that's my experience.
Do you find that pitching SaaS products versus games, with your games, especially, they are cinematic, atmospheric, narrative-based. Coherence maybe doesn't have those aspects to the technology. Do you find that you're trying to that you would like to involve more of those aspects into how you pitch?
Yeah.
Coherence?
I mean, we have a different type of pitches, but I have a version of the pitch where I try to get people into the feeling of it.
What's the mood of coherence?
Yeah, but what would it look like? How do you make a multiplayer sexy? How do you make it a thing that's kind of desirable, making it more creative, making games better? Why should they be better? I have in one of the pitches I talk about that I play a lot of games with my kids. I only live with my kids half time, and it's just such a great way of kind of connecting with them. And I think also Corona learned us that our online, the way we have online relationships now has changed a lot from before Corona. And I think it only showed us that it's so important to create deep connections that also last online. Again, you can have a screen, you can have a Zoom call, and you see a person, but you don't feel them. It's so much better to kind of yell of your friend, and if they did something great or bad or whatever.
Do you ever feel like it would have been easier to pitch a game using coherence, and then take that money and continue to build coherence?
That's a good question. Maybe. Thought about it many times, but I still don't like mixing it up.
Because I find, like, especially pitching game investors, they're used to seeing game pitches. They want to see the visuals. And for our technology, there's no, like, I can show you our web interface, but like that's not so exciting. Whereas a game has all the, effects, and it's flashy, and you can point at, well, that's what we're doing in the game. But that's a whole, then we're going back to square one, which is, we got to build a game again.
Yeah, but I think because I'm also investing in games now and things, being on the other side, I just feel like when people pitch something to me that is both the technology and a game, for me it's an instant, like, it's too much. Like, you should not build two things. I tried to build two things. Like, don't, like, you invest. I feel that you should invest in one or the other. Just even naming your engine something by doing a game, it like shows me you put too much personality in it, and you want to do something about it one day.
Do as I say, don't do as I do.
Exactly.
So you would not recommend people to follow in your footsteps and build a game engine and a game at the same time, or?
I mean, it is quite stupid. I mean, you should do it if you want to be stupid. But I mean, I think the important part for me was just to split it up in two companies, which makes it harder for you personally, and that's why I say it's stupid, because it's really tearing you down, like as a person. But because both companies require something for you, and both companies don't care about what the other company requires from you, and also you cannot talk about it because they don't care. But if it's split, I think it's fine, because there's people that has focus on that specific thing, and you can hire people for that specific thing. Mm. But I mean, one example is IO Interactive, and they always had their Glacier engine, and I mean, they probably would have saved millions and millions if they just used Unreal or whatever. But it's kind of this thing they are proud about. They wanted everybody to use it. They gave it a name, as I said. I heard also that at one point they kind of pitched it internally in Square Enix, like, for them to use it. And it's just been this, like, things that dragging along. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were on a talk this time last year about build versus buy, and as much as we say buy, don't build when it comes to custom technology. Our panel host pointed out that pretty much all the top 10 games are all on their own custom tech. But I think times are changing. I hope you see more and more games, Game of the Years as built on Unreal and Unity now. So I think people are learning. Now, you've been doing coherence for 5 years. 7 years. Do you ever look back and wish you spent the last 7 years just building games?
So I'm not the person that regrets like over such a long time span. I can regret yesterday or like last week, but I don't like so no. I think it's been fine. I mean, it's been I learned a lot. I grown. I mean, my main driver in everything is learning. And as long as I learn, I don't think time has been wasted. So I think it's fine. What about you?
I have like 10 game ideas that I'm working on separately, but I'm fully focused on Loot Locker, and unlike you, I still need to sort of get a big exit to feel really good about myself. So once I've done that, I can go back to self-funding my own games. But you recently reacquired Jumpship.
Yeah.
So something's clearly on your mind. Can you tell us anything about that in the last few minutes we have?
I cannot say that much. It's something completely different. We're still cooking and still new.
Is it going to be using coherence? The hesitation.
But I cannot say what we're doing.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, well, we have a few minutes. Is there any questions in the audience that maybe anybody wants to ask me or Dino? Not about Jumpship.
Could be about anything. No? Yeah. Oh, no. No, don't give her the microphone.
You really want to give me a mic? But Alex, you were asking Dino whether, because you have been working on a game at the same time as you're working on Coherence, but because you were also involved in Jump Ship.
Yeah.
So it's quite funny when you also reference the thing about doing a game engine while making a game, whether doing two companies, or you doing multiplayer tech in one company while also making a game in the other one. So I guess that's the same, right?
Yeah, but as long as it's split, right? That's.
Yeah. Just to have two things running.
It's always good to have two things running.
Yeah, exactly.
But at Playdead, you guys built your own game engine.
Yeah.
Did you name it?
No, but we had talks about making it commercialize it, but also realized how much it would take to get all the quirks in and out, of the engine. So, and that's also where I realized, it makes no sense. You have to spend, 2-3 times the time you already spend on it to kind of make it ready for everybody, and it makes no sense.
It's the same story as David with Unity, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he considers Unity a side quest?
It's a huge side quest.
A very big side quest. Maybe we should get him here next year and see what he thinks. Great. Well, thank you very much, Dino. I really enjoyed chatting about this. It's very interesting to see how you can balance making games and making technology. We're all waiting to see what you announce with Jump Ship, I guess. And also, good luck with.
Likewise. I'd love to hear about your next exit.
Yeah, me too. Let me know when it happens. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dino, Patti, and Alexander Bergendahl. Give them a bigger round of applause.
Even bigger.